This is huge. The Second Amendment just scored one of its biggest courtroom victories in years, and it's shaking the entire nation. A federal court has officially struck down a major carry ban, calling it unconstitutional and a direct violation of your right to bear arms. The ruling landed like a thunderclap across the political landscape, igniting celebration from gun rights advocates and sparking outrage among gun control supporters. The decision doesn't just affect one state. It sets the stage for sweeping changes across the country. For millions of Americans who have felt their rights slowly eroded by new restrictions, this verdict feels like a turning point, a moment that reminds everyone that the Constitution still has power. But what exactly did the court say? And how could this reshape how and where law-abiding citizens can carry their firearms? Stick around, because once you understand this decision, you'll see why experts are calling it a game changer for the Second Amendment. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss a real update on the laws that impact your rights. Now let's break down what just happened and what it means for you. It started quietly. A single lawsuit filed by a group of gun owners who were tired of being told where they could and couldn't exercise a constitutional right. The state had passed what it called a sensitive places carry ban, a sweeping law that essentially prohibited concealed carry in almost every public space: parks, churches, restaurants, public transportation, even parking lots. On paper, it sounded like a safety measure. But in reality, it made carrying legally nearly impossible. Gun owners pushed back, arguing that the law violated the Supreme Court's 2022 Bruin decision, which made it clear the government can't just invent new restrictions unless they align with the historical tradition of firearm regulation. The case moved through the courts, and now the verdict is in. The ruling was firm, detailed, and left no room for confusion. The court said the state's sweeping carry ban was inconsistent with this nation's historical framework and an unconstitutional infringement on the Second Amendment. Those words hit hard, because they didn't just reject one small part of the law, they tore down the entire foundation on which it stood. And here's the key part. The court didn't just issue a temporary pause. It permanently blocked enforcement of the carry ban, meaning that for now, gun owners can legally carry again in areas where the state had tried to forbid them. That moment, when the ruling came out, was electric. Gun rights groups erupted in celebration. One attorney called it a massive victory for freedom, while another said it restored the balance between public safety and constitutional rights. But behind the headlines, the reasoning from the judges was what really stood out. They made it crystal clear that rights can't be redefined by emotion, fear, or political pressure. The Constitution doesn't change because of headlines, or because some politicians don't like how broad it is. The court wrote that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. That right cannot be reduced to a privilege by labeling the entire public sphere a sensitive place. That sentence alone sent a message to every state currently trying to limit where you can carry, the kind of message that will echo in courtrooms for years. But let's pause for a second. What does this mean for the average gun owner watching right now? For years, states have been testing the limits, passing laws that look constitutional on the surface but crumble when you hold them up against the actual text of the Second Amendment. Many of these laws were designed to make carrying so inconvenient that people simply gave up. But this ruling says, enough. The Constitution doesn't come with a may apply disclaimer. It's not a right that needs government approval. It's a right you already have. The judges didn't rely on emotion or political debate. They went straight to history. They analyzed what restrictions actually existed when the Second Amendment was written. Were there bans on carrying in public parks? Number. On public transportation? Number. On private businesses open to the public? Number. And that's the test laid out by the Supreme Court in Bruin. Unless a restriction has deep roots in American history, it doesn't pass constitutional muster. Of course, this didn't sit well with everyone. Almost immediately, gun control groups condemned the decision, calling it reckless and dangerous. State officials vowed to appeal, warning that the ruling puts communities at risk. But those arguments, while emotional, ignore the legal foundation this ruling stands on: You can't protect rights by violating them. You can't claim to defend safety by dismantling liberty. This is where the story gets even more interesting, because legal experts are already predicting this case could end up back before the Supreme Court. If it does, it might give the justices an opportunity to expand on Bruin even further, possibly setting a national standard that limits how far states can go in restricting carry rights. Imagine that. A single decision that not only strikes down one state's ban, but forces every state to rethink their laws. That's how powerful this ruling could become. But let's be honest, this isn't just about law or policy. It's about something deeper. It's about what it means to live in a country where rights are supposed to be protected equally, not selectively. For decades, gun owners have watched as their rights were chipped away. One restriction here, one new, sensitive place there. Each law on its own might have seemed small, but together they created a web of control that made lawful carry nearly impossible in many states. This decision tears through that web. It tells millions of Americans, you don't lose your rights when you leave your front door. Now that doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean people can carry anywhere, anytime, without responsibility. The court made clear that legitimate, narrowly defined restrictions, like in courthouses or schools, can still exist. But what this ruling does is restore balance. It says the government can't claim your entire state is a sensitive place just to sidestep the Constitution. Think about it. How can a right mean anything if you're told you can only use it in theory? For gun owners who have followed the legal battles since Bruin, this ruling feels like a long-awaited confirmation that the tide is finally shifting back toward the Constitution. One activist said it best, "We're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking the courts to respect the law as it was written." And that's exactly what this judge did. But even with this win, the fight isn't over. State lawmakers are already talking about rewriting the law in new language, trying to find loopholes, new definitions, or creative justifications to achieve the same restrictions. And you can bet there'll be more lawsuits, more appeals, and more late-night debates about what "shall not be infringed" really means. Still, the message today is clear. The Second Amendment won. And maybe, just maybe, this marks the beginning of a broader legal trend. Legal analysts are calling this a domino moment, the kind of decision that sparks a chain reaction. Other states with similar carry bans like New York, Maryland, and California could soon face identical challenges. And if those courts follow the same reasoning, we could be witnessing the start of a full-scale rollback of unconstitutional gun restrictions nationwide. Now let's take a moment to look at the bigger picture. Beyond the legal language and the headlines, there's a principle here that matters to everyone, whether you own a gun or not. It's the principle that your government doesn't grant you rights. It protects them. When courts reinforce that idea, they're not just defending the Second Amendment. They're defending the foundation of freedom itself. So yes, this is a victory for gun owners. But it's also a victory for the rule of law, for due process, for every American who believes that the Constitution should mean exactly what it says. And that's why this moment matters so much. This ruling reminds us that the fight for rights never ends. Freedom isn't something you win once and walk away from. It's something that has to be defended, case by case, generation by generation. So where do we go from here? The appeals process could take months, maybe years. But for now, gun owners have reason to celebrate. The Constitution held, the courts stood firm, and one of the most overreaching gun bans in the nation has officially fallen. So, what do you think? Did the court make the right call in striking down this carry ban? Or do you believe states should have more power to regulate where people can carry firearms? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone. If you found this breakdown helpful, give the video a like, share it, and don't forget to subscribe for more honest, in-depth coverage of the biggest 2A cases across America. This is 2A Legal Report, keeping you informed, empowered, and always ready to defend your rights. Stay aware and stay free.